All right, beautiful people, hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Shelf Control. This is the episode series where I am trying to get my TBR down to 50 as soon as I possibly can. And you're gonna help me with that. So I am going to be letting TBR Harvest, which is a TBR readathon that is hosted by Leandra, the TBR Zero, and we're gonna do Booktuber Bingo. And Booktuber Bingo is gonna help me determine what books I'm gonna be reading for this vlog. Spoiler alert, I already know what books I'm gonna be reading. But I did want to show you my bingo card. I ended up getting bingo multiple times on the, I think it's the fifth one? Whoops. Yeah, on bingo card 5, I was able to get multiple bingos, but I wanted to get a bingo that would help me to get to my physical books. I had a couple of choices, but then I would have to get a book from the library or something like that to fit the prompt, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted this to be the vlog where I focus on my physical TBR. So with that being said, let's go over the prompts that I'm going to be covering during the course of this vlog. So we are going to be doing B7, and B7 is to watch an autumnal movie. And I looked up some autumnal movies and I decided I'm going to watch a tried and true favorite of mine, and that is Knives Out, directed by Rian Johnson. So I will be reading that at some time during the course of this vlog. I-28 is, what is that? Thriller, mystery, horror by a Canadian author. This one took some time for me to figure out because I didn't know which books were written by a Canadian author, and I don't really own that many thrillers, so I was a little concerned if, I was gonna find a book that had this, or that fit this prompt or not, but I found this one, and I have Dark Roads by Chevy Stevens, and she is in fact a Canadian author. I believe she's from, let me see, what does it say? Yeah, she lives in Vancouver Island with her husband and daughter. So this is a Canadian author, and I don't know anything about this except for that's a thriller. Essentially, you have multiple women that are going missing, unfortunately, young women going missing across this particular highway. And so I believe a detective is going to be looking into these cases to figure out if they're linked to a particular criminal or associate who is committing these crimes. That's it. That's all I know. I don't even know why I even picked this up. I got this from Pango. I don't know who influenced me to get this, but it is blurbed by Mary Kubica, who wrote Local Woman Missing. I really enjoyed that book. And a couple other people, but I don't know who they are because I'm not a thriller reader primarily. So hopefully I enjoy this. I will be letting you know my thoughts as we go along. The next prompt is, what is that? Bingo was his demo, N45, which was a book from a previous fall TBR. Now, if you watch my recent fall TBR video, or even my first ever fall TBR video, I mentioned a book in particular. Can you guess what that is? Can you guess? I'll let you guess. See if you've been paying attention. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna be reading The Night Circus in this vlog. Yeah, I'm gonna finally read it. I'm gonna finally pick it up by Erin Morgenstern. And I don't wanna go into too much detail about what this book is about, but essentially we have a circus that only happens, I think, once every year, or maybe once every couple years. I'm not sure, I don't remember. But we have two characters that are both talented magicians. And there's this competition essentially that's gonna be happening that they're gonna fight in, or not fight like physically, but like compete in, I should say. And that is essentially what I know about this book. And I talked a little bit about what the book was about in my initial thoughts when I first picked it up a couple years ago in my last video, about my fall TBR. So go ahead and watch that if you want to see my thoughts on that. But yeah, so we're going to be getting to this one as well to meet the prompts. And then G56 is a book outside my normal genre, and that genre is nonfiction. So we're kindly gonna be getting to this. I know you've seen this. I know you've seen this. You saw this in my August TBR because I was trying to read a lot of Golden Age books, and that is Black Gotham, A Family History of African Americans in 19th Century New York City by Carla L. Peterson. And as you've probably seen in a lot of my wrap-ups, I don't read nonfiction that often. So this is the genre that I read the least, but I honestly have the most, I have the most nonfiction unread books on my shelf. So getting to this in this vlog will really help me to kind of work my way inch by inch through my nonfiction TBR. And I already was interested in reading this book anyways. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing my thoughts as I read this one. And then finally, for the O in bingo, we have O62, which is read a book that involves music. And I don't really have that many books that I know of that involve music because I don't really read, as you've known, or as you've probably realized, I don't like to read synopses on books most of the time. But this one has a song in the title, so I'm assuming that this has something to do with songs. This is A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang. I got this as a book of the month pick for September last year, and I haven't picked it up yet, but I know it's a historical fantasy, and it's based on a legend, which is one of the famous four beauties of ancient China. A Song to Drown Rivers is an epic novel steeped in myth about womanhood, war, sacrifice, and love against all odds as the fate of two kingdoms hangs in a delicate balance. That's it. That's all I know. The cover is gorgeous, obviously. One of the most beautiful covers I've gotten from Book of the Month, to be honest. And it was, I think, because it's historical fantasy, and I think this was one of the more interesting picks for that month. That's why I picked this up. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to this one as well. So that is the TBR for the vlog. And my next check-in will probably be when I have gotten a decent amount into one of these books. I don't know which one yet, but I will let you know when that happens. All right, it has been quite a minute since we last spoke, and a lot has happened. I actually went ahead and finished The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I gave this a 4-star rating. Actually, I just decided that I was going to give this a 4-star rating just now. This is a very good book. I really appreciated and enjoyed following Celia and Marco. I always want to say Cecilia. That's why I tell, like, is it Celia or Cecilia? Celia and Marco, and their journey of learning and growing in their powers, growing in their abilities, and also figuring out that this is just a game. This is all a big game that they've kind of been whisked into without their knowledge or their understanding. And there are quite a few lines in this book that I really appreciated. One of them was said by a character. I don't want to go too far into it, but essentially just saying that, like, two of these individuals who kind of set this course going, or this fast track of this game, they have become so detached from the game itself that they really just see Celia and Marco, or whoever their students are at the time, as pawns to accomplish their feats. And it doesn't even matter if more people are involved. Whoever gets lost in the shuffle, which is literally losing their lives, is just a casualty in the midst of them figuring out who is the better teacher, who has the better methods. And I feel like that was a good illustration in the book, and it kind of obviously can be shown in regular life and, you know, our day-to-day, where if we get too far away from, or too, you know, take ourselves too far out of the equation and just kind of approach it from a very distant perspective, people can be seen as pawns. People can be seen as just, you know, a means to an end. And I appreciate that. Though we did get that overarching rhetoric in the book, we also got to see the lives of Celia and Marco and of various numbers of people, and how they each had their own interesting and rich backstories about their childhood and the circumstances that they were in, their hopes and dreams and desires, and how, as things were going on in the circus that weren't making sense, without getting too far in the weeds, there are things that happen where people are, after a certain point, they're not aging as fast. They're able to move from place to place without notice. You know, the circus just shows up at a certain location without any prior promo or marketing. I'm sorry that's really rambly. I will give a more comprehensive thought about this book definitely in my wrap up, but I did give it a 4-star. I definitely understand why people recommended this so much. I think this was like a booktube favorite for a number of years before I even joined, and I can understand why. It was definitely a very good book. It was very atmospheric. I want to say last like 50 pages or so were set kind of towards this time of year, like October, November. So I like that. I appreciated the notes about people wearing scarves and, you know, the cool air and everything like that. So though I'm not quite there yet with where I live, it's still kind of hot here, I do appreciate those kind of nods to the fall in this book. So can see why this is loved. And then I went ahead and just went to the next book in my TBR from this video, and that is Dark Roads by Chevy Stevens. This is my book that follows the prompt to read a book by, I think it's reading specifically a thriller, mystery, or horror by a Canadian author. Y'all know I'm not gonna read no hoarder. Y'all know I won't be reading any horror, so mystery thriller it is. So this is a book that we're following a young girl. I forgot her name now. I'm like, Haley. I'm reading multiple books at once. This is probably not a good idea, but Haley McBride, she is a, I want to say she's a senior, no, is she a junior in high school? Yeah, I want to say she's a junior in high school. She, I believe this is set, I think this is not set in Vancouver. I'm trying to figure out exactly where in Canada this is set. I don't know if they mentioned it, but she lives in a town called Cold Creek. I don't know if it's a fictional town. And unfortunately, her father has recently passed away. Her mother passed away when she was younger from cancer. And her father recently passed away from a very strange, like he was pretty much driving too fast on the road and crashed, and he died from that. And so over time, over and over in the book, and I'm only, I think, 140 pages in, she mentions that, like, why, Dad, why are you driving so fast? Why are you driving so fast? And so I don't know if there's something else going on that caused him to lose control of the vehicle. But in any case, now that she is an orphan, essentially, she is living with her mom's sister, Aunt Lainey, and her nephew, or her cousin, and then her aunt's husband, Vaughn. And he is, I believe, a sergeant in the local, like, PD, police department. And he has always made her very uncomfortable. And she always is kind of like, he gives me the ick. He always wants to be closer to me, or like he wants to control my life. And like little by little, as the book continues, there are things that happen and that are revealed that just, like the ick. Like he is not a good person at all. And she needs to get away from him because he's very dangerous. And that's all I'm gonna say. But I don't know if this is like it's gonna be a red herring, because also in the background of what's happening in the story between Haley and her family and whatever situation is going on in her personal life, there's also a number of young women who have gone missing or have been found dead near the Cold Creek Highway. So there is suspicion that there is a particular suspect who is targeting young girls that, you know, especially that show up maybe by a lake or at different like events that happen and are, you know, getting them alone and targeting them. And so Vaughn is using that as a way to kind of scare Haley into obeying the rules. And you know, when I say obeying the rules, like make sure you get home and make sure you don't go to the lake with your friends. Like you can't go to the lake anymore. That's not safe. You can't go to work at a diner to make some extra money because there's creeps around. Like there's multiple things that he's just using these, you know, murders that are happening in the background as an excuse to like tell her she has to stay home and like nanny instead of being able to hang out with her friends and stuff like that. So at first it seems like he's just being overprotective, but as time goes on, it just seems like there's more to the story. So currently where I'm at in the book, some things have happened. Again, some things have been revealed that give me a little pause, but I just finished part 1 and we're about to switch into part 2 where we've had a POV shift. So before we were with Haley and now we're with Beth. I think Beth is her, okay. Beth is a friend of Haley's sister. Okay, so we get Beth's perspective from here until, I'm assuming, until part 3. So I wanted to give you an update before we got to that point, because then I'm like, okay, I'm pretty much should finish the book at that point if I went through part 2 as well. So that is my update so far for both books. I did enjoy Night Circus. I'm enjoying Dark Road so far. So I will give you another update probably when something else, you know, is revealed, something big. I'm back because I have finished Dark Roads by Chevy Stevens. And what are my thoughts on this book? I finished it last night, like late last night. I had about maybe 40 pages left and I just didn't want to go into another day with this book. And that sounds kind of bad. It sounds like I didn't like it. But I just wanted to kind of complete the chapter on this book. And I like this book. I ended up rating it a 3.5 rating on my Storygraph. I haven't really written out a full review of it yet, but I did like it. Essentially, from what I had last told you, when we moved from Haley's perspective in part 1 to Beth's perspective in part 2, we get more of a understanding of her relationship with her sister Amber and how she was feeling and grappling with grief of losing her. Not really a spoiler. This is in literally the first, I think it's in the synopsis. Yeah, it's in the bottom of the synopsis, so it's not really a spoiler. But yeah, we've worked through with her how not just her, but how her family, her parents are going through losing Amber, and the way that she has died. Beth ends up going back to Cold Creek, or going to Cold Creek, leaving Vancouver behind to figure out what happened, to get answers on what happened with her sister's death. Beth, that's really interesting. She is the eldest out of the two. So the eldest, she's giving full eldest daughter behavior, wants to be perfect, wants to set the great example, kind of is pushed without, sometimes, indirectly, sometimes directly, to be that, great example of a young woman for her younger sister. And her parents are heavily involved with church, with their church that they attend. And they are working through their grief, by leaning on the church. And also, even prior to Amber passing away, we get a clip in part 2 where we see a little bit more about their relationship, Amber's relationship with her parents, Amber's relationship with her sister Beth. I can kind of understand why they have this, I don't know how to say this. Essentially, they have certain feelings and they feel like their parents didn't necessarily want to or try to get to know them as people, that they are mainly just focused on things that they want to do and not so much of getting to know who their daughters truly are. And that's why Amber ended up, leaving Vancouver and finding herself in Cold Creek. And then ultimately Beth does the same thing. There's a lot of that where it's the parents kind of caused the kids to run away. And honestly, after finishing this book, I'm glad that the author kind of pushed back against that notion a little bit. I don't think it was kind of done enough, in my opinion, to give a more nuanced conversation where it wasn't just, the parents are horrible and they're kind of pushing their perspective and their beliefs on their kids. I don't think it was really that. I think it was a balance of possibly that, but also the children, kind of being rebellious a little bit and wanting to do their own thing and not even wanting to hear the parents out at all. And I think they mentioned that, they touched on that a little bit later on in the story, which like I said, I do appreciate. But again, I don't think it was enough of a balanced perspective. Obviously, we're in Beth's POV for the most part, so we're not going to get a more realized or mature response because she's kind of in it. She's in the midst of her grief. She's really focusing on getting answers, but also figuring out what she wants to do with her life, because she really doubts that her aspirations of, at the time of being a lawyer are really going to fulfill that, that ache in her heart, or that, purpose that she's looking for in her life. So those kind of conversations was interesting. The one, I guess, gripe, that's one of the gripes, I guess, the lack of nuance in that relationship. I feel like that was very much expected, an obvious decision to make that, okay, we have the religious parents against the rebellious, kids. I feel like it deserved more nuance than that. But also one thing that I didn't really care for was this is a mystery and this is a thriller. And I feel like if you've read this book, you're going to understand, there's a particular character that they are pushing in your face to be the person that's the suspect. And they want you to believe that it's them. But myself, after reading quite a few mysteries recently and kind of watching a lot of mysteries and things like that and thrillers, there's always a red herring. I feel like some mysteries and thrillers do a better job of concealing who that it is a red herring versus not. And I think this book didn't do as great of a job of presenting other possibilities for who the Cold Creek killer was. They put it so that it was this particular person, they're a horrible person, they're a creep, they're, constantly antagonizing our main characters in this book. So obviously it has to be that person. And then when it ends up that it's not, and it's someone who, we weren't thinking it would be, then it's kind of oh, okay, it's that guy. cool. Like, I wasn't that impressed. I wasn't impressed by the way that the whole mystery was laid out. So yeah, I would say I would give this like a 3.5, because it was interesting in the sense of I like the action scenes that how they wrote the action scenes was really interesting. I was engaged with it. I was like, like flipping through the pages trying to figure out what's happening. So in that regard, like I kind of enjoyed myself. That's why I'm saying I would, if it wasn't for how well the action scenes were written, how I appreciated the flip on the whole a love triangle. It wasn't really a love triangle per se at all, actually. It's more of like you have this young man, Johnny, who's like best friends with Haley, and he has to decide between supporting Haley in whatever she's wanting to do, and then, living his own life and possibly living it with, a new love interest and stuff like that. Haley's not interested in him like that. Haley and him are completely platonic, but there is a deeper conversation about, when you have people that are so loyal to you and will do whatever it takes to protect you and help you, that sometimes your desires and your hopes and your dreams kind of get lost in the midst of that. And the people that are asking that of you, they aren't really thinking about it. They're thinking about their own survival, and they're thinking about what's going to protect them, and they lose sight of the fact that you could be losing yourself in the midst of helping them as well. I appreciate that as well. There were a lot of interesting themes that were introduced in this book that typically aren't shown, in my opinion, in the books that I've read so far, as far as in the mystery thriller genre. So I do like that was touched on. But anyways, that was Dark Roads. I probably will, to be honest with you, I probably will end up unhauling it, but we'll see. I'm gonna keep it on my shelf for at least the next few months. And then, if I don't really have the desire, which I don't really think I will reread this, I probably will get rid of it. All right, so with that being said, that means we have 2 books from the bingo that have been completed, so yay us. And now I have 3 more prompts. One of them is to watch an autumnal movie, and I already decided what movie I'm gonna watch for that. And then I have 2 other books that I'm going to be reading. So one of them is A Song to Drown Rivers, and that is for, I believe, a book with some type of musical aspect of it included in either the title or in the story. So like I said, this one just has song in the title, so I'm assuming that it has something to do with music, and it is a fantasy book. So I think with this video I'm leaning towards reading either mysteries or fantasy. Absolutely fine by me. So yeah, I'm gonna get a little bit more. Obviously I haven't even started yet, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna read, this is a very short book. It's like only it's a little bit over 300 pages. So I think I'm gonna get at least a third or maybe even halfway through, and then I will share my thoughts.
Of you stays bright. Sometimes I stand in the middle of the floor, not going left, not going forward.
All right, fam, I'm back with an update. So I have finished A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang. So good news is I finished. Bad news, I rated this a 2-star, guys. I rated this a 2-star. So essentially with this story, from what I know, I shared with you a little bit about the premise of it, and we got to the point where she was at the kingdom. She was meeting with the king, getting to know him, he was getting to know her, and the plan of sabotage was kind of being laid, and it was executed really well. Obviously, things were happening that were not problematic. People's lives were changed. Some lives were lost, and there was a lot going on that caused some turmoil within herself about figuring out, is this guy as bad as he says he is? Or, should I execute this vengeance and this revenge against him? Or is my feelings about this misplaced? Is my anger misplaced? And a lot of things popped off in the last 50 pages of this book. It was definitely very action-packed. However, towards the end, something happened where I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to spoil it, but if you are curious and you don't care about spoilers, then, you can definitely go on Goodreads and find some reviews, but I don't like the way that it ended. I felt like it it tried to force a narrative a little bit towards the end that wasn't really present, and we didn't even have breadcrumbs of that throughout the book. So I feel like it kind of was pushed and rushed out of nowhere, which is strange. And then also, this was not like a historical fantasy to me. This was more so like almost like a historical fiction. Yeah, more so historical fiction with a little bit of like at the very, very, very end, some type of fantastical element that I was not a fan of. And then also, I feel like this author, Anne Liang, she really swung a little bit too wide and kind of missed, because there was so much that she was trying to accomplish in this fantasy book, but it's a standalone fantasy, and there was a lot of, I feel like we spent a little bit too much time in the beginning with developing, well, not developing the character, because I love character development, but we spent a little bit too much time building those bonds and relationships. Like the exposition of that took a little bit too long, because by the time we got to her being at the palace, quite a few months had passed, and then once we finished the book, we find out that like she's been there for like 2 years, but it happens over the span of like maybe 100 pages. It was really fast. So yeah, the pacing was off for me. I did like the characters. I felt the character development was pretty good, but I didn't like the execution towards the end of what happened. And then also, I feel like it's not her jam. Like, this is not her thing. So hopefully, I said it's okay. That's what a 2-star for me means. It's just okay. It doesn't mean it's horrible, but it's not a book I would widely recommend. It's not a book that I really would think to like keep. I definitely will unhaul it, which I'm so sad I'm gonna have to unhaul this because it's gorgeous. The cover is beautiful, but it was just okay. I do want to continue, or not continue, but I do want to try Anne Liang's young adult contemporary, because she has quite a few of those books, and I feel like they might be good. One highlight was there's no spice in this book at all, so that was good. So I'm looking forward to reading Anne Liang to see if that is going to be true when it comes to her YA. All right, so also, I changed my mind. So I said I was going to read Black Gotham, which is here. Where are you? It is somewhere. Oh, right here. Duh. But yes, I said I was going to read Black Gotham in this vlog. But guys, this is a thick book. This is a thick girl. She is over 400 pages. Yeah, over 400 pages. And this text is not small, guys. Text is not small. It's a nonfiction. It's like a research about Carla Peterson's family. So I don't want to rush through this. Okay, I want to take my time. So I'm going to hold off on this for now. We'll get to this before the end of the year. Don't worry, we'll get to this before the end of the year. But I'm going to be reading, and I actually already started, so spoiler alert, I am going to be reading All That Is Secret by Patricia Raybon. This is a mystery that is set in 1920s Chicago and also in Denver a little bit. We have Annalee. She is a professor. She was a professor at a small Chicago Bible college. But while she's there, she gets a telegram, and it's horrible news about her dad being dead. And it was supposed to be like an accident, I guess, a train accident that happened, but really something's amiss. Something's off with this. So she goes and she decides to find out what was, despite however her relationship was with her dad, which is very complicated. She wants to find out what happened, what caused her father's death. So where I'm at in the story right now, I'm not that far. I'm about like 50 pages into it. Yeah, things are picking up. There was a little bit of exposition, but now there is a real threat out there. And Annalee, she's a professor. She loves Sherlock Holmes. So each chapter has a quote, a Sherlock Holmes quote at the top of it, and Annalee is essentially trying to emulate her, her role model of Sherlock Holmes and the way she's trying to approach this case. But she's a professor, and this is her dad, and she has no detective experiences. So this is a definitely amateur sleuth kind of book. So if you don't like that, then, don't read this, I don't think. But, because it's definitely giving amateur sleuth. But so far, I'm enjoying this. This is great. And I know that there's 3 books in the series. So if I absolutely enjoy this book, or even like it, even if I give it a 4-star, honestly, this is going to be a win for me, and I'm going to be continuing to read this story. So very good so far. Also, I got some book mail, so I wanted to share that with you. I actually got this, and it is from Simon and Schuster. They actually reached out to me because I had commented on a post, and I said that, oh, you're gonna hear this. There we go. I commented on a post, and I said that the book sounded really interesting to me because it was a multi-generational family saga, which is my kryptonite. And they reached out to me and offered me a not finished copy, but an art copy, or advanced reader's copy, I should say, for Honey in the Wound by Jung Han. And it says a lyrical and suspenseful debut novel about a mysteriously gifted Korean family confronting the brutality of Japanese empire. And it's an epic tale of survival and reclamation of power. So this sounds like really up my alley. I'm really excited to read this book. People said that if you like Pachinko, you should read this book. I did enjoy most of Pachinko except for a few things, which I had shared in my one of my previous wrap-ups. But yeah, this sounds like this is gonna be up my alley. And thank you so much, Avid Reader Press / Simon and Schuster, for sending me this copy. I'm really excited to get to this soon. This actually comes out Q1, so March 1st of 2026. And this is actually my first physical ARC for 2026. I have quite a few e-ARCs, but my first physical one, so I'm really excited about this. Thank you again. And I have my journal that I talked about. I have my journal. I may or may not, depending on when I posted this. I posted a video, my end of the year book tag. Ow. And I did mention that I wanted to work on and start a reading journal in 2026. So I did get that. I'm trying to open this. This is going to be really hard. Ugh. You can see, this is it. But, oh no. Okay, I might need a scissors. Hold on one second. Oh wow, it's kind of smaller than I thought it was going to be. Oh, what is this? Oh, it comes with, what is this? Oh, it comes with some stickers. That's cool. And a little QR code to get hand-painted stickers. That's really cool. All right, let me put this here. And then I can open up. Oh, I don't know what this is. Oh, it's a little like 2026 little hand art. But yeah, this is it. Oh, sorry for the glare. It is a vertical common. It's a common sterling ink common planner, vertical, and it's in a mulberry wine kind of color. My favorite color is purple, so this is kind of closest I could get to it, and it is so cute. It's compact. It's much more compact than I thought it was going to be. Full planner. Yeah, this is going to be awesome. And it comes with like a bunch of empty, it comes with a bunch of empty pages. So that's what I'm going to use to put in like my reading tracker for the books, like the bookshelf little picture, different book reviews, the pictures or different covers and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to working on this throughout the year. So yeah, I wanted to show you that. I wanted to show you the book. So I'm going to get back to reading All That Is Secret, and then I think I want to drop a clip at some point of the movie that I watched, because I did watch the Atomic movie, so I'll probably have already showed you that. But yeah, let's get back to All That Is Secret, and then I will give you my final thoughts. I am back. It's another angle. I'm trying to switch it up. So yes, I have completed All That Is Promised by Patricia Raybon, and I rated this 4 stars. This was such a great read. Like I said in the clip before, Anna Lee is a professor at a small Bible college, and she, her father has passed away or was killed. So she's working on figuring out what happened. This takes her back to her hometown in Denver. And through this book, we're able to get a picture of the race relations in Denver, during the 1920s, early 1920s. They had a growing Black community that was in Denver, that was thriving, had businesses, all of those types of things during this time. So I appreciated that we got to get a glimpse of Black prosperity and Black equity during the 1920s, around that time, in somewhere other than like a New York, or, you know, just seeing different types of Black Wall Street that was taking place at the time. One thing that I really appreciated in this book was the faith elements that were in here. Anna Lee was really struggling spiritually at this point in the story. It had been about a year. When we meet her, it's been about a year since her father has passed away. And though she is working at a Bible college, and she's theologically and theoretically understanding the Bible and studies various theologians and all that type of stuff, her faith was really tested when her dad was taken away from her, as well as like her relationship with her dad is very strained at the time. He was just kind of getting his life together and turning his life around. So by the time that they were starting to reconnect, it had already be a little bit too late to get that relationship fully repaired. But I liked that we got to see her full progress of her coming back to really praying and seeking God and getting the peace that she needs about her story. And there were so many different reveals. The mystery itself, I say, was very well done. There was a lot going on. There were a lot of different characters that were involved, and it could have been easy to lose track of who it was, but I think Patricia Raybon, I don't know if it's because this is her first mystery that she's written, but she made sure to highlight who was who and who was connected to whose brother was whose, and all the type of stuff. And while some might think that's a little bit overkill and might be a little bit annoyed on how she handled that, I personally thought it was well done, because sometimes I get lost in the midst of different plots that are going on when it comes to a mystery, especially with the cast as big as this one. It's a very big cast because we're following a lot of different prominent people within the community, both the white side as well as the Black side. So yes, I'm trying not go too deep in it. I want to, do a full breakdown in my wrap up, as I keep saying in these clips. But overall, the main thing only reason why I didn't give this a 5 was because there is a romance in this story, and this book didn't do the best job of showing us them interacting and them getting to that place of emotional intimacy that caused Anna Lee to kind of go head over heels for him. We get a scene where it's mentioned that they stayed up like almost half the night when she first arrived, and they were talking about a bunch of stuff. And through that, I know that they probably gained that emotional intimacy that I was looking for, but I wish we had a little bit more insight into that before we are in her inner monologue. And she just keeps talking about how handsome he was, like multiple times, and it was kind of saying the word frivolous, like, oh, these frivolous feelings, and it was kind of getting a little annoying. But other than all of that, this story was very well written. The author's actually from Denver, and so that's why she wanted to get some historical background into what was happening during that time with the Ku Klux Klan and all that type of stuff. It was great. This is book 1 in a series. Will I be continuing? Yes, I will be. So that was the last book for the vlog as far as a book to be read. However, these are my confessions. I got another book. This is To Capture What We Cannot Keep by Beatrice Collin. I picked this up. I went during a date night a couple of weeks ago. My husband and I went to a farmer's market, and one of the vendors there is actually like a mobile bookshop. And I just went through this little like Airstream, a little Airstream trailer thing, had a bunch of different books, and they all are second hand. And so I was walking around, well, not that far, in the Airstream, and I saw this book. It has obviously like a Eiffel Tower on it, and it is set in the golden age, or it's not golden age, it's set in the Gilded Age until February 1886. And all I saw was that we have a woman, some wealthy young Scottish women who are in need of a husband. And so they have a chaperone that is, I guess, widowed and impoverished, and is going to be helping them to find a chaperone. And this is set around the same time, I believe, as when the Eiffel Tower was being constructed, because in the inside we have kind of it being fully constructed and then kind of on its way. So yeah, I read that, obviously, Gilded Age, Scottish Heiresses. Yeah, I'm gonna pick this up. And so very beautiful cover as well. So yeah, this kind of knocks me back down in my my TBR. So that wasn't that helpful, but I want to be honest with you guys about where I stand with my TBR, like books that I'm reading as well as books that I'm letting go of. So because I think I went up at the beginning of reading or picking this book up, I think I was at 94 books. Now that I finished this, I went to 93. With this other book that I just got, it went back up to 94. So in total with this whole video, I read, or I'm like net 2 books. So we went from 96 books to the start of this video to 94, which we're still under 100. So props to us. Now I just need to read some more books. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any suggestions on what I should be doing, any ideas for the next episode of Shelf Control, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear any of them and hopefully try them out. I'm hoping to get at least one more Shelf Control vlog out before the end of the year. And then 2026 is going to be full of great vlogs similar to this one, hopefully a little bit shorter. But again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe if you would like to join the fam. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.